What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode. In this episode of Gaming News Weekly, there's plenty going on, as there seems to be every week. So, if you are interested in keeping up with gaming news, make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you will always be alerted as I run this show every single week to keep you guys up to date on all the news in the gaming world. With all that said, let's get started. First up, we heard a little statement from Nobuo Uematsu, who is the famous composer for a lot of Final Fantasy music, among others. He is tried and true. He is a veteran, known as one of the best. And he said that he's too old and too tired to compose a full-length OST. He still is interested in doing parts or helping other composers do it, but he's just too tired to do a full length. Which, you know what I say right off into the sunset, young man, you are gold. Yeah, he's a legend and has earned his rest. Next up was this stupid thread on Twitter or X or whatever. And it got more traction than it should have, and maybe me talking about it probably isn't the best, but I feel like it's worth reporting, where someone took the localization of Unicorn Overlord and said, it's terrible and here's why. And essentially, the Japanese localization, if you took what they said in Japanese, it was simple. And then the English translation was a lot more complex. Added a lot to the sentence. Okay, so first up, this localization person, I don't know if they ran it through Google Translate or what, because anyone who can actually translate Japanese would understand the basics of this kind of localization. So I doubt very much that they can actually translate it themselves. Maybe I'm wrong, but if so, they still don't fully understand the difference in culture and different in language. Because the way it works, right, and again, hear me now, I have done some studying, some learning of Japanese as a language and of the culture. I'm no expert, right? But I have done some. And even in my limited study, I know that Japanese uses a lot of context for their sentences. For example, they don't often use you or me unless they need to for emphasis, because it's implied in the sentence, right? So if you just hear, right, or look at just a small text of Japanese and you don't have the full picture, then you are missing a lot of the conversation, okay? English is not like that. We describe and explain. If I'm talking to you, I say you, right? I say, hey, will you go to the store? Not just to the store, right? The very different form of language, and our understanding is different. So to assume that, oh, you should have said, I am tired, where they say, man, this is a lot. I'm tired. I need to go to bed. It sounds like they really extrapolated, but that's part of localization too, is what is the feeling of the original language? What is the feeling of the game in the way it was created, and what's it supposed to be for English? How do we translate that? It's not a one-for-one. It's a feeling for a feeling. It's a sense of the character for a sense of the character, right? So what, maybe let's just say chivalrous is something they want the main character to come across as. What that looks like to a Japanese audience is going to be very different than what that looks like to an American audience or a English audience, right? So that localization isn't going to be one-for-one, word for word. It's going to try to convey that sense of the character, at least if it's a good localization, right? So this whole thread of him, her, I don't actually know, whoever this person was, taking each sentence and saying, oh, this is what it actually says and this is what they said, is complete ridiculousness, waste of time. This person has no idea what they're doing. So if you saw that, you just gotta know that's garbage. Don't listen to that. Don't worry about that. That's just dumb. That is ignorance. Posting stuff as if they're an expert, and they're not. So again, I'm not claiming to be an expert myself. I just know enough that I know that. Fair? I am learning some Japanese, but I am very, very bad, okay? So don't ask me for Japanese advice. I'm not there yet. Maybe one day. Well, maybe one day. All right, next up, we had that Pokemon Presents. And I mean, as we all kind of expected, there wasn't a lot there. But they did announce the next Legends game. Right, we had Legends Arceus. This one is Legends ZA. I'm assuming those will, you know, Zeta Alpha or something like that down the road, but at least for right now, it's just ZA. And more importantly, they announced it for 2025. Now, it still might just be more Pokemon and not much, but they are skipping a whole year. They're not pushing it out by the end of 2024. They say 2025, and I think that should give a little bit of hope for anybody who is worried about them, you know, because they always seem to punch out stuff that's not ready. So I'm not saying at all that it's going to be, or that this is going to be top tier game or anything. I don't know. The little trailer they showed shows absolutely nothing, right? Nada. You don't get anything from that, but that there is a possibility that they're taking their time and working on this more thoroughly. So, let's hope. Hopefully it's great. We'll see. And then, last little bit in these smaller news is I thought were kind of funny and ridiculous. So, Xbox, as we've talked about, has been porting games over, and they ported Pentiment to PS5. And for some reason, I'm thinking it's just a bug or a glitch in the code. They might have even fixed it by the time this show comes out, but on PS5, Pentiment will run at 120 frames per second. On Xbox, it will not go past 60. So an Xbox game runs better on the PlayStation than on the Xbox. Whoops. I don't think that was intentional. It's definitely not a hardware issue, right? It's a code issue that they will find and fix if they haven't already, but it still is pretty funny. All right, next up, I've been kind of deciding whether to go bad news, good news, or good news, bad news, and I always prefer bad news first and end on a positive note, so I guess that's what we're going to go with. And so, bad news, if you haven't already heard about it, there's been a bunch more layoffs. I know, surprise, this is our industry right now, and it sucks. But Supermassive Games, that's like Until Dawn and that, those guys laid off 90 people, which is like 25 to 30% of their workforce. EA lays off another 670 people after they just did a big layoff last year. PlayStation lays off 900 people, including their big studios, people from Insomniac, people from Naughty Dog, people from Firesprite and Guerrilla. They also completely closed London studios. That whole team gone. Man, I mean, we know this about our industry, and the thing is, you don't want to ever make light of jobs being lost, right? I've made that very clear on this channel, how I feel about that. But I also think there have been signs for quite some time of the AAA game industry ballooning to the point of impossibility. There's no way to keep up on games that are costing $300 million, right? How many games do you have to sell to recoup that cost, let alone make any profit? In PlayStation's earnings call, they talked about how they made $10 billion in revenue. And out of that $10 billion, $600 million was profit. You can't run a 6% profit margin. It's too small, right? Can you imagine that? If we brought that down to layman's terms, right? That means you would have to make $100,000 to have $6,000 for yourself, right? I mean, you can't possibly run on that kind of revenue stream. With what is that? 94% of your income going to expenses and 6% to be used as you want. I mean, that's just not sustainable. You cannot sustain that. It's impossible. So they have to change some things. I don't agree with laying off all the people as the means to that. I think there are other things that they need to explore. Especially some of these companies, you really take off some of that head, right? You know, I mean, EA, Andy, whatever his name is, made like $20 million. So cut off 10% of that. That's $2 million. How many people can you keep for that? It's not 670, but you can probably keep a chunk, right? And if those top execs that are making a bunch of money can take a little bit of a pay cut, then some people can keep their jobs. If you lower some expenses on some of these games, you know, how many of us enjoy games that are indie, that are maybe more AA or JRPGs that have a much smaller budget? Get creative with your art. Get creative with your writing team. Make the games smaller and shorter. Like, there are options to reduce the cost and have these people maintain their jobs. There's also the truth, like, we know there's going to be redundancy anytime there's, you know, merging or whatever. I understand that. But I mean, in the last year and a half or whatever, we're at what, like 16,000 jobs or something? 17? I mean, I don't know how many. Someone tell me in the comments how much it is. It's way too much. And that has to get fixed. They have to fix this AAA model in the gaming industry, or it will continue to blow up. It's not going to go away. I've seen some people total doomsday. It's crashing. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's failing. And they will find a way around it, but firing 10 to 30% of your workforce all the time is not the answer. You have to find a way to budget your finances better. All right, well, let's get to some good news, and that is that some companies are getting out of this. Remedy bought the full rights of control from 505 Games. Now, 505, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, 505 has not been one who's been laying off a bunch of people, but Remedy to have their full control means they don't have to go through 505 Games. They can shop themselves around or self-publish, however they choose to do it, but that gives them options. Having the full rights of control to them also means if somebody were to buy Remedy, which, you know, we had rumors of Sony buying them for a long time, which I don't think is going to happen, but if somebody bought them, then they also have control that makes them more marketable, right? So that's good. That's a good thing. Also, Toys for Bob, which is under Activision, right? They're the ones who made like the Spyro trilogy and the Insane trilogy. They are separating from Activision and going indie. They basically got some private investors and they are going private on their own. That's awesome. Saber Interactive got out of the Embracer Group hellhole they were in. They bought their name for $500 million, which is a lot, but these guys got private investors. They put up the money, and Saber has also kept the KOTOR, the Knights of the Old Republic remake with them. That is their game to do. So it's still possible now. As far as we all knew, KOTOR remake was dead. It was gone. Embracer didn't have any money. They weren't doing that. But with Saber buying out their company and going private, having private investors to put money into their company, KOTOR remake is on the table again. And that is super exciting. So there's some of these companies that are getting out of that big AAA, you know, companies who are laying everyone off, and they are escaping. That is good news. Let's go, guys. Keep that up. So let's hope more companies can do that, or AAA can watch how some of this is happening and scale back to where it's more sustainable. But either way, pretty awesome. All right, just a couple little tidbits. No Rest for the Wicked got gameplay, got early access date, and a lot of previews going out. So early access is on April 18th. And dude, the more I see this game, the more I'm excited. I was already interested, but it's now the more that it's coming out, the previews, if you watch some, they have, essentially it's Diablo-esque with Souls-like combat. So the combat is way slower and impactful. You have to be thoughtful about how you're going about, but it's beautiful, right? These guys made Ori. They know how to make a space have a lot of life to it and be the contrast and all the things they play with, really, really good. So this is climbing up my interest board. I'm probably not jumping into it as far as early access. Maybe if that might be something we do as a community. If we all decide we want to look into that, we might do a little bit, but I'm just gonna at least keep my eye on it. I'm excited for this whenever it's gonna come out. I think this is looking really promising. And then also I want to let you guys know for the kind of free games, right, that are coming out. PS Plus games are announced, and a couple of them are whatever, but some of them are great. F1 23, Hello Neighbor 2, Destiny 2 Witch Queen, which if you have Destiny 2, that's nice. If you play it at all, then you'll have to pay for it, but that's kind of whatever. But the big one for me, at least, is Sifu. If you haven't gotten to play this game, this is that martial arts roguelite-esque game where as you fight and you die, you get older. And the older you get, kind of like a little bit stronger, you know more skills, that kind of thing. But when you finish each section, there's like 4 sections, I think. Each time you finish one, you kind of lock in that age. And so it's got a really interesting dynamic of learning the fight scenes and you know, the fastest way to get through without losing lives and beating the bosses and whatever to get through it young enough that you have enough life for the end. I think it's fascinating. I think it's awesome. I'm really excited for that. I've been wanting to play Sifu for a while, but I just didn't have the capital to throw at that as well as the other games, and the other games were higher on my list. So Sifu looks awesome. I'm excited to play that one. All right, and that's it for me this week, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new. If you like the gaming news, like I said in the beginning, we do this every single Tuesday, okay? Every week this comes out unless I get delayed. But even then, it's only by a day or two, okay? I'm on it so far. Cross fingers. Anyway, so keep with us. We're gonna keep pushing. It's good stuff. I also should have videos every single Thursday with some either a review or like a list or whatever. So keep track of that. And yeah, reviews coming up. We'll talk soon. I'll kind of give you the layout of what's coming. I have a lot kind of in the wings, and I just haven't had time to do all the recording and everything. So I will let you guys know what that looks like in the near future. Okay. Thank you again for watching. It means the world to me. I hope you guys have a good one. And as always, good hunting.